hour. Yeah. But then yesterday, I just saw a chubby guy carrying a pizza like it was a newborn baby. He had so much joy, like fat guy carrying a pizza. And I made eye contact with him, and he could tell that I was happy for him. And I remember that happened to me once, walking out of a pizza place, and it was like they had such a great deal, so I could get 2 pizzas for less than to get 1 delivered. I could pick up and get 2. Yeah. And there was a fat guy that made eye contact with me, and it was kind of like the Jeep wave where we both bonded, and I could tell he felt my joy, and I forgot that even existed. And then I saw it yesterday, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do a bit on this.
That's funny. Like,
it's one of the happiest walks you'll have is leaving the pizza place to your car with your pizza going, maybe I'll have a slice in the car. It's the greatest.
You mean maybe? I will have a slice in the car.
So I was grateful just to see that. Somebody else's happiness over such a simple pleasure.
Everybody listen to Darren Carter. We all know that he's a party starter. So if you want to listen to a podcast for free, listen to a Pocket Party. Pocket Party.
Everybody listen to Darren Carter. Yeah. We all know he's the party starter. So if you want to listen to a podcast for free, then listen to a Pocket Party. Pocket Party. Darren. Everybody listen to Darren Carter. We all know he's the party starter. So if you want to listen to a podcast for free, listen to a Pocket Party.
We're back. What's happening, party starters? August 29th, I'll be at the Ontario Improv. You know it. August 29th, Ontario Improv. It doesn't get any better than that. If you are in the Ontario area, come out and see me at the Ontario Improv. When? August 29th. That's right. October 6th, I'll be in Santa Barbara, October 6th. October 19th and 20th, I'll be at the Dead Crow in North Carolina. And guess what? I am doing a homecoming. I will be coming back to Fresno, California. Yes. Fresno. Or should I say Yes. Yes. I'll be there Thanksgiving weekend. I'm going home for the holidays, and we set up some shows at Dicicco's in Clovis. Dicicco's in Clovis on Clovis Avenue, November 23rd and 24th. November 23rd and 24th. Tell all your Fresno people, your party starters coming back. The rooster's coming home to roost, bro. Híjole, este reggae rooster. That was my nickname in high school. What's up, rooster? I want to do a big shout out right now. This is amazing. I said if you guys retweet my pinned tweet, which is the tweet that's at the very top, you're going to get a shout out. So right away, I got retweeted by Justin Hires, which is amazing. You know him as the actor from Rush Hour and MacGyver. Also Earl Skakel. Shout out to Wendy M. Lewis, Laurie Bernstein, Josh O'Brien, Ari Azizian, just to name a few. I want to thank you. This is a listener-supported podcast. If you guys want to, if you find my comedy or the podcast entertaining, go ahead and throw, whatever you want to do. I'm not going to say an amount, just whatever you want to do. Go to the description from which you downloaded this podcast, and you will see a little button it says listener support or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what it says. It's my first week putting it up there. But you click that, and you can find out how you can help keep this program going, get some extras, see what else we can do. And for everybody that does it, I'll give you, extra shout-outs. And if you want me to promote something, you let me know. Also, my email is pocketpartypodcast@gmail.com. I'll know who donated, and then I can, we can set up that behind the scenes, and I'll be like, big shout-out and thank you to... I'll promote your social media, whatever you want me to do. I'm a whore. Yes, I am. I'm a sellout. You pay me, I will give it back to you. Listen, man, I'm not beyond that. This is the Pocket Party Podcast, and we will start this party one way or another. Okay, so what else we got? A lot of great feedback from last week's episode with Brett Ernst. That was amazing. And I feel like I'm really coming into my own with this podcast, like doing the intros. I really like last week I talked some of this about the 80s concert with Rick Springfield with his six-pack and his old ass being 69 years old, and me jogging the next day going, gosh, I mean, how many of us were at that concert going, I want to be in the shape of a 69-year-old? It was hilarious because the guy behind us, when Rick took off his shirt, Rick, we're on a first-name basis, Jesse's girl. When he took off his shirt, the guy behind us in the stands was like, eat some carbs. And it's kind of funny because this week I've been, eating a lot of food. And my wife was like, that guy that yelled out, eat some carbs, he was talking to Rick Springfield, not you, Darren. I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. But what can I say? Shout out on YouTube. I got a comment from Princess H. She says she loved the discussion about song lyrics with Brett Ernst. Also hearing about how Brett broke down his favorite movie scenes. Yeah, very, very good. Listen to the Mike Young podcast. That's a good one. I was told not to put certain things in the hashtags and whatnot by somebody, but all I can say is listen to it and you will love it. I guarantee it. Okay. Big shout out. Let's go right now. Of course, Rems, and your wonderful support. Lee Meyerhofer. And what do we got here? We got some new reviews on iTunes. So I guess that's the best way to mess with the algorithms to really help a podcast get up, is to give it 5 stars and a review, which is very easy. It's so much easier now than it was like 3 years ago. Literally, especially if you have an iPhone, go to the podcast app, not the iTunes app, but the podcast app. Search Darren Carter Pocket Party. Scroll all the way down to the very bottom of the page. You'll see the 5 stars and just do a quick little review. And I guarantee it will take less than 1 minute. Do it now. Pause. I'll wait. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Okay, I'm not going to count. Okay. Here we go. A new comment was left. I'll read the reviews on iTunes, good or bad. I will read those. But please make them good. All right, here we go. This is from Frez Yes. Because I'm from Fresno, so they wrote Frez Yes. Yo! Wait, actually, Frez Yes is the title. It says is this a phone number? It says by 716. Whatever, it's a bunch of numbers. 392, 6, whatever. Okay. Yo! Epic podcast. Saw you perform it at Reedley College a couple of years ago. Great show. Glad I came across it. Keep up the keeping up. Beautiful. Love it. Next one. This is from Steven Sanchez, 5807. Steven Sanchez, 5807. I love this podcast. It's hilarious. I've followed this guy ever since high school. He's a Central Valley guy like me, and the jokes are very relatable. Very funny. Aw, thank you. Here's the next one by Big Heck. Orderly Rooster. If you guys know how to spell Odelay, it's spelled O-R-A-L-E. Orderly. I'm a terrible speller, but I figured out how to spell that about 15 years ago because I was doing I was writing some sketches for Power 106 in Los Angeles, and I wrote like Odelay, like how you would, O-D-E or whatever. And this guy the producer goes, what is that? And I go, like Orderly. And he starts laughing. He goes, no, it's O-R-A. Okay, so anyways, yeah. All right. Orderly Rooster, he writes, by Big Heck. Longtime fan. Keep up the good work and go connect the dots with your freckles. Inside joke. Yeah. I used to do that. I was like, I could never get tattoos. I got freckles. Look at my army tank. Ooh, it's rusty. Boy. All right. Here's another one by JCESARP. He says, great. He goes, I'm a big fan of the new podcast, making Mondays tolerable at work. I know that's right. Oh, look at Curtis Marsh, who does a cover of my son's theme song, the guy from Nashville. He writes, this podcast puts a lot of focus on the positive. Great job, Darren. Keep the party going. Aw, isn't that great? Like I said, my son, 10 years old, wrote the theme song for the Pocket Party podcast. Big shout out to Austin. What up, Austin? And if anybody wants to do a cover of the theme song, I will gladly play it on the podcast and make sure when you send it to me at pocketpartypodcast@gmail.com, make sure you put your any links you would like me to promote, and I can promote those in the description of the podcast and for sure on YouTube. That way when I upload the podcast to YouTube, people can, get into your world and you can get more followers on Instagram and YouTube and whatnot. So what else can I tell you? There was that from iTunes, and we told about the YouTube. Yes, and today this is a great podcast. I did an interview with one of my good friends. He's a really good guy. His name is Steve Simeone, and I love his comedy, and I love what he does off stage. He does a lot of volunteer work at the Children's Hospital. He has a podcast called Good Times. A lot of you know it. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably familiar with it. He's just a good dude, man. And I had him on the show, and I want to say, podcasting is a wonderful world that's bringing us all together. It's making good things happen. It's bringing friends together, bringing us as listeners together. I love how people have reached out to me and they're like, Darren, I didn't know you had a podcast. I'm like, yes, I'm back in the game, bitch. I'm back. You can't take me down. Because I used to do another podcast way back in the day. But I'm back by myself, which I like better because then you don't have to group up with friends. All right, the four of us, let's get together. And then, people are late or they just show up or they got whatever, girlfriend. It's like a band, right? I didn't get into this to be in a band. Comedy, it's a solo game, man. Comedy is a solo sport. I posted a picture on Instagram, official Darren Carter's, where you could find it, official Darren Carter. And it's a picture from 20 years ago. I don't know if you guys saw it. 20 years ago, who knows who's still doing. People ask me, they go, hey, who's still doing it? And let me read this lineup to you right now. This is from the Hollywood Improv, 1998. Kicking it off was Bonnie Brennan, the MC, Bonnie Brennan. And somebody on Instagram wrote, hey, Neil, I'm glad your mom was the MC. Whatever. All right, so look at this stellar lineup. 810, Pat Godwin. If you're from the Midwest or the South, you know Pat Godwin. He plays guitar, he does comedy. Next up was Niecy Nash. And she was just doing a showcase, 5 minutes. Next was KP Anderson, who has his own production company. KP Anderson, and probably a lot more that I don't know. I don't know the rest of his credits, but I know he's a big in comedy and behind the scenes. And then look at here, 8:35. It's your boy, Darren Carter. 1998, Darren Carter on at 8:35. And then we had Preacher Moss, Vinny Favorito. Vinny was selling out rooms for years in Las Vegas. Pete Johansson, big-time New York comic. Robert Peacock, I don't know who that is, but he got 20 minutes, more than the rest of us. Next was Sully McCullough. Sully, writer, actor. You know him from the Jamie Foxx show, and he just produced a comedy documentary, Sully McCullough. Gene Pompa, one of the funniest dudes, I know it sounds funny to say, but on Facebook. Follow Gene Pompa on Facebook. And closing out the last three, Josh Wolf. Everybody knows Josh Wolf. He's a killer comic, good guy. Chelsea lately. And then Uncle Joey Diaz was on at 10:05. Coco, Uncle Joey Diaz, Mad Flavor. And, of course, the headliner at 10:20 was none other than Mr. Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle. Yeah, so, dude, just to show you guys, that was 20 years ago. And I didn't start 20 years ago. I'd already been doing comedy for 8 years. So, stick with it, man. I got a friend. He did 50 episodes of a podcast, got a lot of listeners, getting the downloads. It was happening, and he quit. He was just like, I don't want to do it. We hung out today. What up, buddy? I'd say your name, but maybe, I don't know. You don't give a shit. He's great. He wants to get into comedy, so we wrote jokes, and he wants to figure that out. But he's cool because he doesn't really. He takes down his Instagram. I don't even know if he tweets, and he's young. That's what's crazy. He's a millennial. He's like, I may look young, but I'm an old soul, which I believe because, yeah. Because I'm like, how do you do that? He's like, I don't know, but he does know some stuff. He's a cool dude. But anyways, yeah, can you imagine? I told him today, I go, there's that great picture. Maybe I'll try to find it and put it on my Instagram where these two guys are digging for gold and you see him in the tunnel and one guy was like right there. And that's when he gave up and turned around. It's like, no, you got so close. Why did you give up? Guys, if you have a dream, go for it and don't give up and do a little bit every day. Work on it every damn day. And you're going to have your ups and downs. But don't worry about the ups and downs. Stick with it. Stay with it. Make that list. Cross that thing off. Like if you're like, okay, what can I do? What can I do to get one just a little bit closer? And I'm going to say this in the podcast with Steve. But I love that quote in the Rocky movie with Creed where he's like, it's one step at a time, one punch at a time, one round at a time. That's what it is. Little by little. I didn't know how to do any of this stuff when I started, but I figured it out. I went on YouTube tutorials, figured it out. I got that donate button going, so I don't know if I have no idea if anyone's going to do it, but I hope somebody does it. I hope a couple, like I said, if you do it, I'm going to give you a shout out, and we'll figure something out. Maybe you'll hit me. I'll know your name. And you can hit me up, and when I come to your town, you can be like, hey, I'm the guy that pledges X amount of dollars, and you're damn right. I'm going to hook you up with a T-shirt or some CD, whatever. It's all good, man. You guys are making my dream come true. We're in this together, like I said, in it to win it. All right, I'm rambling a little too long. I love you guys. Thank you for everything. Like I said, go for your goals. Don't give up. Do a little bit of time and make it happen. Whatever that thing is, do it, and don't give up. Can you imagine 50 episodes in and you just give up? Shame on you. I'm just kidding. He's great. I did his podcast. I'm sure you could find out who it is if you Google it or whatever, or just ask me. I'll tell you. All right, man. Let's get into it. Love you guys. Keep starting that party. And what else? That's it, man. Start that party in your ear holes. You guys are amazing. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you. I went to Barnes & Noble. This made me laugh. I went to Barnes & Noble, and I bought 3 books. And they don't just let you take the books out. They're like, oh, would you like a bag? And I'm like, I mean, you can just take the books out. But she's like, would you like a bag? And I'm like, yeah. And then they try to charge you for bags. I'm like, why are you charging me for a bag? And she's like, well, we're trying to save our part for, saving the trees. And I'm like, look around. This is a 3-story Barnes & Noble. Save the trees. You do realize your entire business is made of paper. You're selling books. Anyways, if you were a termite, what would you eat? Would you eat a book or a coffee table? I thought about that because I had, some people don't want to confuse. They don't want to like mix up their chicken and their omelets because they're like, it's kind of gross. Like eggs and chicken, it's the same thing. It's gross. And I saw some books on a coffee table, and I'm like, wow, they're all made of trees. That's deep. And I thought, if I was a termite, what would I chew first? The table or the books? Now, I asked that on Twitter, and some people were like, well, I'd eat the books because it'd be easier on my teeth. People were like, well, I don't know, the coffee table to give me that caffeine, especially if it's made of coffee. Anyways, these are the deep philosophical questions you'll get on the Pocket Party podcast. All right, we're going to get into it. You guys enjoy it. Thank you very much. Like I said, retweet that pinned tweet I have on Twitter. Let's get some more listeners. Let's invite more people to the party. If you want to donate, boom, click that in the description. You got it. Love you guys. We'll talk soon. Thank you. Now let's start that party in your ear holes.
Everybody listen to Darren Carter. We all know he's the party starter. So if you want to listen to a podcast for free, then listen to the Pocket Party.
And we're back live. Yes, I've been trying to get this guest for so long. I've done his podcast maybe 4, 5, 6 times. I have no idea. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him, you love him. Here he is, Mr. Steve Simeone.
What's up, buddy? Yeah, you're like one of the most popular guests on my podcast. People love you. So it's an honor to be doing yours.
Dude, we're like 2 peas in a pod. We're both guys that people consider us nice.
Yeah.
Which, that sounds funny. We're nice guys, but it's like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like my wife goes, that's because they don't really know you.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I'm joking. She's like, yeah, maybe in the comedy world you're not. But I'm like, I am nice. But it's nice to meet another.
You know what I think it is? I think Los Angeles is so narcissistic and selfish.
Yeah.
We're just normal.
We're normal.
We're just normal, and everybody's like, that guy's so nice.
I know. Oh, he held the door open. He's
Yeah.
He did something for someone else.
He checked in on his elderly neighbor.
He thinks about other people. But
yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
but I was my very first episode. Okay, guys, listen. Steve does a podcast called The Good Times.
Yeah.
And if you guys go back and listen to my very first episode, I was like, I took it right out of the pages of Steve Simone's mind, and he's like, you know what? Gratitude. You got to have a gratitude list. Things that and it's great because even when you get depressed or down, which we all do.
Yeah, 100%. So, isn't that frustrating though? Like what I find frustrating about being labeled "quote unquote" a nice guy or positive is that people don't. They either think it's all an act, and they think you're like some dark creep, and it's all pretend.
Yep.
Or they think like, oh, that guy's never in a bad mood, or that guy. It's like we're human beings, man.
I know.
Like I think depression is, and I'm not talking about clinical depression and people that really are struggling and need professional help. I say go get professional help. But I think all human beings, it's like you can't. Life isn't always awesome. You know what I mean? But there are certain things that you can do to help you get back on track faster. And like now that I'm in my 40s, I've had, 20 plus years of trying to help myself get back on track. And gratitude list is one of them.
It absolutely works. If you guys get the blues, I'm serious. Sit down under a tree, just meditate, go somewhere. And when we say meditate, seriously, go outside in nature and just.
I think it's a huge thing.
Just get outside.
I think that was my New Year's resolution this year was just to spend more time outside, and I'm not doing it enough. But I'll tell you what, I think there's like a primal need that we need to be under the sun. That we need to. Oh, if I get to go on a hike through the woods,
right,
or see something beautiful, it changes you, man.
It really does, and it's like. It doesn't even have to be that long. And then back to the gratitude list, just jot down 3 or 5 things that make you happy. Even it could be so simple, but getting back to nature, my wife and son, we went down to the Orange County Fair, and it's funny. That's another thing with getting older. Like the part that I found most interesting was we walked into like an exhibit hall, and they had this whole thing on bumblebees and different honeybees, and I'm like, this is fascinating. Like the guy was I don't know if he was a scientist or what, but he was an expert on bees, and we were talking about I go, what about like the queen bee? So does she runs the hive and like they all work for her? And he was like, actually, it's quite the opposite. He's like, yeah, they push her down until they're done with her, and then they move on to the next queen. And I was like, whoa! Like he was like,
who knew?
He was describing like what these bees do, and then they had like a magnifying glass, and they have like bees that they put like on a sort of like a pin, and you could like hold them up, and with the magnifying glass you could look at these bees. And they had I wish I knew the name. It was a bumblebee, I think. That kind of is like black and furry and real big. Yeah, big as your thumb. So, anyways. We went to the farm. My wife grew up on a farm, so we went to the family farm, and I was way back in the field, and I was like, "You guys go ahead. I'm gonna take a leak." and I was by these, probably like I don't know what kind of flowers they are. Like they look like those flowers. If you guys are Prince fans, there was a album cover called "Love Sexy" or something like that. It looked like tulips or whatever. So when I was done doing my business, I saw like that same like furry looking bumblebee, and it was incredible to see this thing about an inch long going zzz, and then he would go down into the flower, get the pollen, come up zzz, and then go zzz, and I'm telling you, when I got back to LA, I thought, man, that was just 5 minutes I spent watching this bee go into the flowers, come out, and that's something that you have to take time to do stuff like that, and it takes your mind off your own bullshit and your own problems. Yeah, just watching a big bumblebee get pollen from a flower. When's the last time I did that? I don't remember. Yeah,
just to appreciate the moment and realize that you're just part of this wonderful, cool thing called life.
Right.
I think that's one of the coolest things about getting older, at least for me, is that I'm starting to appreciate the simple fact that I'm just living. Mm-hmm. And before, I was so blinded by depression. I was blinded by ambition. I was blinded by trying to focused on all my needs. You know, like I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, and I was not enjoying the ride. And then something happened in the past year, 18 months, where I've been like, hey man, just appreciate the now, just appreciate the moment, appreciate the fact that you're just here. Like that's why I love podcasting so much. Like I've been so busy, I haven't been able to do my own podcast as often as I would like. But now, right now, this is one of the greatest gifts in life, catching up with an old friend, enjoying the moment and the simple pleasure of a conversation.
It's true.
It's the coolest thing.
When I'm done podcasting, I'm always in a better mood. I'm always like, because you could be in a great mood, and I don't care if you're on cloud 9. When you get done podcasting, there's something about that thing of like, hey, we accomplished this thing. We had a real connection with another person.
The connection. I think it's what's really cool is like you said, now you have something tangible to share with the world, and hopefully people listen to this conversation and just somehow they'll feel like they're sitting in that chair right there. They're hanging out with us.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel good.
I had a buddy tell me that today. He goes, hey, I was listening to that episode with you and Brett Ernst. And he goes,
how great's Brett Ernst, by the way?
Brett's great, man.
I love that.
He's
dude.
like, you could just let him run. It's awesome.
Yeah, he's awesome.
You know? He was like, was I talking to him? I'm like, you did perfect. Thank you. Because when I got back into podcasting, I was like, you know, because I used to do another one way back in the day and I had a partner and then we had like a co-host and then we'd have a guest. So there'd be way too many people. But in a way, it was kind of like a crutch because I thought when I do this again, when I start over with the Pocket Party podcast, it's just going to be me. And I'm like, oh, and I started getting freaked out. And I started getting in the way of myself where I was like, well, what if they talk about something I don't know what to, you know, I don't have anybody else in the room. It's just going to be, and I realized it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, you know?
And I think that's why I prefer podcasts over like morning radio or something.
Oh, man.
Because like, to me, everybody has a different approach to podcasting. But for me, what I love about podcasts is just when it's transparent and authentic and just two people connecting. You know, it's the coolest.
Yeah, my buddy he told me that he was on the road and he's like, yeah, I listened to that episode. And he goes, I went for a 2-mile walk looking for this restaurant. And he goes, but it was cool. He goes, I had the earbuds in and I'm walking. And he goes, I felt like I wasn't alone, even though I'm in Tacoma, Washington on the road. He goes, you got these, people in your,
It's the coolest.
Yeah.
It's the absolute best. Yeah, so I love to podcast, to catch up with friends and see you. Like, I haven't seen you. We had a great hang at the Comedy Store a week ago, but that was it.
That was cool.
And then I love my favorite time to listen to podcasts is either right before I fall asleep or when I'm on a plane.
I like listening to podcasts in traffic, like when if I'm doing like the Long Beach Laugh Factory or if I'm on the road, I like doing like at the airport. I love it because I can't call my friend at 5 a.m., but I can put the earbuds in and listen to like a podcast.
Yeah, it's so cool.
I don't go to sleep to podcasting, but I have in the past. And, my wife really likes Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla, so she listens to that pretty regularly. And so sometimes it'll be on, and I'll hear that, and that's really good, But
that's cool.
It's kind of a weird compliment. Like, I love your podcast. I go to sleep to it every night.
Yeah.
But it's like, have you ever thought, some people do like a daily podcast. Have you ever thought of that?
If I could. I just have so much going on, man.
It'd be too much. It'd be like...
It's too much.
And I think a daily podcast might be good. It'd be kind of interesting. Listeners, let us know. What do you think if I tried something like even a shorter version of like, you know what? 1 week a month, I'm going to do like, instead of putting it out every, Monday night, what if I just did like a 20-minute daily podcast is sort of like a treat or something? I don't know. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, well, it's cool that you can fool around with all that stuff.
Yeah, it's like there's no rules. There's no program director. No one's saying... I was in Florida. I was in Orlando, and I did the Tom and Dan podcast, and those guys are making a great living off of it. And they said they worked at a radio station, and the radio people were like, "Oh, are you guys going to make a decision?" And they were like, "We're podcasting," and they have like a sales rep and a guy
that's awesome,
helping them earn different streams of income, different ways off the podcast.
The future.
And there's such a connection with the. If you guys are listening and you're BDMs, you know what's up, big. Millionaires. That's what they call their listeners.
That's hysterical.
We got to get a cool name for our podcast listeners. I just call mine party starters, but
I call mine buddies.
Buddies.
Yeah.
Hey pals. Hey buddies. No, but it's true though. They are your buddies.
It is. It's so much fun.
It's cool, man. All right. Let's talk. Let's do a little gratitude list if you'd like.
Yeah. Do you know what one of the things I started to do, because I tried to take my stand-up comedy and essentially make that a gratitude list. Like that's the subtext of all my comedy that I'm trying to create. So I see stuff and I try to jot it down, things that just little moments of joy that I saw on a daily basis, because it sort of rewires your brain to look for that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, because not only we'll do a traditional gratitude list where I'll start thinking about all the stuff in my life that I'm grateful for, but every day I think we're surrounded by beauty in different forms, and it could be the sun, it could be nature, it could be that bumblebee going from flower to flower.
Yeah.
But then yesterday I just saw a chubby guy carrying a pizza like it was a newborn baby. He had so much joy, like fat guy carrying a pizza. And I made eye contact with him, and he could tell that I was happy for him. And I remember that happened to me once, walking out of a pizza place, and it was like they had such a great deal, so I could get 2 pizzas for less than to get 1 delivered. I could pick up and get 2.
Yeah.
And there was a fat guy that made eye contact with me, and it was kind of like the Jeep wave where we both bonded, and I could tell he felt my joy, and I forgot that even existed. And then I saw it yesterday, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do a bit on this.
That's funny.
Like, it's one of the happiest walks you'll have is leaving the pizza place to your car with your pizza, going, maybe I'll have a slice in the car. It's the greatest.
You mean maybe? I will have a slice in the car.
So I was grateful just to see that. Somebody else's happiness over such a simple pleasure.
It's great. When we went up to the farm, we got pizza, and I love pizza. And then I did a show. Oh, by the way, if you guys are, if you're in the Fresno area, I just booked this today. I will be at Dicicco's Italian restaurant. I'll be performing. It's going to be great. They have the best pizza, and I'm going to be there the Friday after Thanksgiving and the Saturday.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm already going to be home. So all my friends and family and people.
Oh, that is so cool.
It's going to be great. It's like, it'll be awesome.
Homecoming, holidays, and a place like Dicicco's, that's a tremendous name. I'm sure the food there is incredible.
So good, man. I remember going there as a kid, but that location is new, new to me. But I mean, when I was a kid, we used to go to the one, I think it was on Kings Canyon or Belmont or Olive or something like that. But my point is I had pizza at home at the farm. And then when I went in to go I did like a little pop-in show this week. Yeah. And just to kind of promote it. And they're like, what kind of pizza do you want? And I was like, oh, boy, I probably shouldn't. And then you know how you're like, I'll just have one. And then one leads to 2. Then I was like, okay, that's it. I can't do anymore. Like, it's so good. But I'm just, it's hard, right? If you want to look the way you and feel the way you want to feel, you have to say no to a lot of really good foods, man.
Yeah. But when you say no, when you finally do say yes, it feels so much better. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like, I've been doing that intermittent fasting stuff.
How's that going? You've been doing that for a while. It's working, huh?
Yeah, it's working.
That's great.
Yeah, and what I have to do is just make healthier food choices in my windows. Mm-hmm. But even with that said, like last night I was really hungry, but I didn't eat. I was like, no, wait. And then today at, I think it was about noon, I didn't eat. Yeah. So I probably stopped eating last night around 9 o'clock. I try to hit minimum 12 every day. Wow. But like around the 15-hour mark, I came back from working out, and I was going to go meet a friend for lunch. This is the fat guy day I had today. You ready for this?
What'd you do?
So last night I made shrimp marinara, homemade.
Wow.
Tremendous. It was so good. And then Karen made brownies, and I was like, uh-oh, it's not even cheat day. We're having brownies. And the brownies were so hard at midnight not to get up and eat more brownies.
Oh, my gosh.
Because I only had a little piece last night. But then I woke up, went to the gym, and then I was like, oh, I have leftover shrimp marinara. So I had a little bowl of pasta. Then I went with my buddy Jack, who's the coolest. He's like a friend and a mentor because he's older than me, and he's a genius. And he's just cool. You never just meet people and you're like, oh,
yeah,
you're cooler than I am.
Yeah.
Like, he was like a special operations colonel, did a career in the military, and then like a lawyer and a business consultant. Like, he's a winner.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I met him at my favorite Italian deli, Domingo's, and it was so good. And it was so great because then my friend Carlo, I haven't seen him forever. He's never there, and he was there, and I got to see him, and we're eating something delicious. But then I only had half of the sandwich.
Really? I could never do half. I would do the whole thing.
Well, because I had a bowl of pasta before I even got there. But then I kind of did half just so I knew, because I was exhausted from jujitsu. So I was like, you're going to take a nap. And then you get to wake up and eat the sandwich, which was the best. And then for dinner, my buddy Angelo from Children's Hospital is getting ready to go to college. I can't believe he grew up so fast. So we took his family out. Have you ever had Pizzanista Pizza in downtown LA?
No.
So good. David Deary from the Comedy Store works there.
Okay.
And they make the kids from the hospital feel like VIPs. And the pizza's delicious. And it was the best fat guy day ever. But I stopped at 2 slices. I was very proud of myself. I could have eaten 6.
Where's Domingo's? I've heard you mention it before.
Domingo's, to me, I take food very seriously, okay?
Listeners, let's meet up there sometime.
Yeah, it's on Ventura and White Oak in Encino.
Mm-hmm.
It would be great Italian food in any neighborhood. But the fact that it exists here in Los Angeles, a few miles away from my house, is a miracle.
Yeah.
It's like, it would be a good deli in Philly. It would be a good
Yeah.
deli in Brooklyn. It would be a good deli in Naples. It is just legit. They make everything homemade. They treat you like a customer. And it's so rare, I've found at least, in Los Angeles, that a place is consistently good, consistently great service, and you can order anything off the menu and it's good. Like, I'm so picky about food where I'm like, yeah, I can go there for a roast beef, but I can't try the chicken cutlets. Or I could go there for pizza, but don't try their pasta. But Domingo's is one of the places I'm like, everything here is good. You can order anything on the menu. And then there's like a pizza place, I don't want to poop on them, but I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it's so inconsistent.
Oh.
Like, sometimes I'm like, wow, that was really good. And then I go back and I'm like, babe, am I crazy or is this not as good? She's like, the wrong guy made it.
Oh, I've
and
been
then
to places like that.
And then everything else on the menu is garbage. You're fine with pizza and a salad at this other place, but if you try to order like their meatballs or it's disgusting. But at Domingo's, everything's perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
One of the sponsors of my podcast is called the Thai Room, and it's in Burbank. And I went there today, and I had the chicken satay. Is it chicken satay? Chicken satay, whatever. It's chicken satay. It's delicious, and she always throws in like a couple extra ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And
That's why you have to support mom and pop businesses.
It's great.
You get better service.
I brought her some fruit, from the farm, and
Thank you for the fruit, by the way.
you're welcome. You're welcome. I gave them some fruit too, and they just appreciate it. They appreciate it, and so today I got the yellow curry, and it was so good. The chicken yellow curry with the brown rice, and the chicken satay, and with that peanut butter type sauce or whatever that is, that peanut sauce.
Yeah.
So good.
So good.
She's like, because they were both for me, and she's like, Is this for your wife and one's for you? And I was like, actually, they're both for me. And she's like, don't eat them all at once. I'm like, I won't.
But I did.
But I did.
Did you?
I go because I started to walk out, and I go, you know what? There's no customers there, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna eat the chicken satay now. So I had that. I had it there, and then I went home, took a shower, and then about half hour later, then I'm like, I'm just gonna finish it. So
It's the
it was
best.
so good, very good, and it's healthy. It's chicken. It's vegetables.
Yeah.
Delicious. We so what are we thankful for? Let's
Dude, there's so much.
I know.
You know what's interesting? When I started to do a gratitude list with my producer Lee on the podcast, we always end the episodes with gratitude lists. I remember when he was getting started, he couldn't think of stuff. And then now it's like you kind of rewire your brain
Interesting.
by looking on like what should I be grateful for? What should I celebrate in my life? What is an unbelievable blessing? And it's like I'm grateful for the podcast medium that we're sharing this conversation with the world. That's awesome. I'm grateful for you as a friend. I'm grateful for the fact that I just heard Karen playing songs on her guitar. That was so cool. I'm grateful. My buddy Angelo, the kid from the hospital, gave me the nicest letter. And I'm like, oh, I need to make photocopies of this for whenever I'm feeling bad.
Yeah.
Or whenever I don't think it's worth it. I need to be reminded of this. I had delicious pizza. I had Domingo's. Oh, you know what I'm grateful for? You know what I saw yesterday? Well, that was awesome. And I forgot, like, there's little things in life that you just have to, you go, oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever seen a kid that's a giant, like a 15-year-old kid that just is offensive lineman huge? Like this kid, he was probably 15 or 16, but he was like NFL lineman big.
Yeah.
And it was the best because his mom was... He still like needed his mom. And I'm like, how adorable was that? He's like, no, Mom, the guys will give me the business. And I'm like, nobody's going to give you the business, bro. Yeah. And it was just heartwarming to see it. And then right after I saw that, it also melted my heart. I saw a grandmother with her granddaughter. that was about like 5, and they were enjoying each other's company so much, it made me happier about life. Just to see that stuff, it was great.
You know what? My friend, he played a voicemail that his mom sent, and I was like, gosh, I wish, I wish my mom was still around and I could get those kind of voicemails.
Yes.
So I tell people, like, maybe your mom might get on your nerves, but be thankful you have a mom. You know what I mean?
Amen to that.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Amen to that. And I used to say that on stage, something very similar to that. And somebody was like, well, I felt bad because my mom's not around. But I'm like, that's the power of prayer. You can always talk to your mom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know this sounds crazy, but like there are people like the last night I got to hang out with the late great Roddy Piper. You were there. Remember we did that live podcast?
Yes.
And he was like, my best friend, But there are still times where like I can feel his presence. When I'm doing something, I hear him. And I'm like, okay, he's not really gone. I think that's the coolest thing about the impact we can have on people's lives. That they live through you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. He was great. And I only knew him through you, I knew him on TV and stuff.
Super sweet guy.
So nice. He didn't know me from Adam. He was, because I was a friend. He was like, any friend of Steve's is a friend of, and
yeah.
So cool. And he had the leather jacket, and
it was a fun night.
I remember he gave you like a soda pop or something like that.
Yeah.
Autographed it or something.
Yeah, I have it on my.
So cool.
In my room.
And then, yeah, man. But, like those little moments, back to your podcast. I love what your podcast says. At the beginning, it's the little, remember the Tony Soprano intro?
Tony Soprano, yeah.
It's the little things. Yeah, it's because one day you're going to grow up and have a family of your own. Yeah, I love it. I love that intro. And
I remember seeing that, and it just brought together my whole point of view on things. Like, I remember when I was going through my dark years, I was really into the poetry of Charles Bukowski. Did you ever read any of his stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so dark, man. And he had this one poem about a shoelace that snaps, and it was like that's how people go crazy. That madness starts. It's not the big disappointments in life you can handle, but it's the little things that'll drive you crazy. And like I had a really, really rough week last week. I was going through something awful that I'm not ready to talk about.
Sorry about that.
And like when you're tired and you're stressed and then everything just sort of starts to go wrong. Like you go to take your car keys out and they drop to the ground. And you go to drive home and the street you normally take, there's road construction. Like it's
Right.
like, one after another.
And you got to like tell yourself like this isn't a sign from the universe. This is just don't worry about
dude,
it.
Sometimes it's just life.
And
And
it
I was
sounds
having
like the
this
beginning of
terrible
Falling
day.
Down. Remember that movie Falling Down with
Yeah.
Michael
Yeah.
Douglas? And like,
And then, dude,
you just snap.
I was trying to put something away, and I had a bag of pretzels that brought me so much joy. Those like little Kroger store brand pretzels,
yeah.
I love them. And the bag wasn't closed perfect, and I went to put them away, and they dropped, but none fell out of the bag. And I was just like, thank you, Jesus. Because if those pretzels fell all over the kitchen, I'm like, I would have just gone back to bed and called it a day.
Yeah.
So what I started to realize was, like, through the Bukowski point of view, the little things drive you crazy. But I went, well, then wouldn't the opposite be the case? Like, wouldn't the little awesome things, shouldn't they be celebrated and bring you joy and peace? And that's that Tony Soprano scene. Like, that's kind of like what I built my comedy off of. Like, and it is, like, I remember moving out here 18 years ago. And I have fun with it on stage now. But after I got off and did my first open mic at the Comedy Store, I had very limited comedy experience before I moved out here. But I was convinced I was going to make it. So I did my first show at the Comedy Store. It's a 3-minute open mic. And I remember having a prepaid cell phone, walking next door. I had to spend like $10 on parking that I didn't have, and calling my parents back in Philly and waking them up. And I'm like, Mom, Dad, start picking out a beach house. I'm going to take care of you guys, because I had a good 3-minute set. And I guess I collapsed a few years after that because like nothing was working out in my life. And I really felt like I needed to buy my parents a beach house, and I felt like I needed to become a star. And I felt like I needed to be a millionaire to be important to, like, I thought love was something that had to be earned, you know? And none of those things ever happened. And then I got really depressed. And I stayed in that depression for a while. And I started to think that me being depressed meant that I understood life more. I'd be like, oh, all these people are happy because they're stupid. And then slowly what started to happen was I started to think like, well, what if I never become a star? What if I can never buy my parents a house? What if I go, does that mean none of this is worth it? I'm like, whoa, well, what do I do have? What is worth it? When was I happy? What are the things that bring me joy? Let's start focusing on that. And I reconnected to my faith and started everything little baby steps. But I don't care. And I'm convinced of this, Darren. You could be that millionaire, gazillionaire guy. You could be in a mansion right now. You know what? It'd still be the same things that bring you joy. You'd be going, babe, do we have any more ice cream left? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be, it's relationships. It's the little joys in life, the little treats, and the people you get to share it with. I'm convinced life is this simple. For young kids, anybody. I'm in my 40s. My lifetime has come down to this. This is what I think it takes to be happy. This is how simple life is. The easiest thing is to overcomplicate it, like this answer I'm giving you. But this is how simple life is. The only thing you need is a delicious sandwich and somebody to split it with. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's
it.
Right. That's it.
The little things, a good nap.
Yes.
A nice shower. The way you feel right when you're about to high five somebody, that moment that when you're about to high five them and you're like, oh, how good does that feel?
The best.
You know, when you get done exercising.
You know what
for
the
me,
secret,
I love. Go ahead.
You know what the secret to a good high five is?
Staring at the elbow.
Stare at the elbow, baby.
Let's do it.
Yep. That was awesome. So good. It's the best.
Yeah. And it's like that those little feelings like that, you know. And there's something about children that I love because, you know, my son, I love you, Austin. I know you're probably listening. He listens to every episode.
What's up, dude?
He listens to every episode. It's great. He plays piano. He does a theme song. And if you guys want to do a cover of that theme song, send a cover in to pocketpartypodcast@gmail.com. Shout out to Jim Bryan Music all the way from the Netherlands. Curtis Marsh all the way from Nashville, Tennessee. They both did their cover of it. So I come home the other day, and I had one of those days, just like what you described, where you're just like, what the heck, man? Like, I think a couple of gigs fell out and just, I don't know, just problems. You know, we were like, I got to figure this out. So I'm coming up the stairs, and it's hot. It's a hot summer day. Go to put my key in the door. But what do I hear on the other side? My son playing the piano, singing, oblivious to, like, adult problems.
Yep.
And I'm like, I love that. And I'm thankful and grateful to be able to come home to that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's nice.
One of my all-time favorite movies, I was talking to my friend Andrew about this movie this week, is It's a Wonderful Life. It's the
Mr.
greatest.
Potter.
It's the greatest.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about dark. It's about a guy trying to commit suicide.
Tell us again for people who.
It's a Wonderful Life is Frank Capra is the writer director. He's an American icon filmmaker. In the 1940s, he directed Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed in a classic film called It's a Wonderful Life. It's about the story of the everyman. It's about the story of a guy that never got to live his dream, that took on the responsibility of a family, being a husband and father, and had difficulty meeting financial obligations. And through a unfortunate turn of events right before Christmas, he finds out that the bank is going to take his business and put him in jail because he doesn't have the money to cover his debts. So he thinks the best way out of this situation is to kill himself so they can collect the insurance money or something like that. I forget the details. But the important thing is on Christmas Eve, he leaves his home and jumps off a bridge, and then his guardian angel saves him. And essentially how his guardian angel saves him is just shifting his perspective. And at the end of the movie, none of his circumstances have changed other than his perspective on the circumstances. And he essentially goes through that whole gratitude thing. He's like, oh my God, I love my wife. I love my kids. I love my life. I love everything that I have. And I just couldn't see it because I was so clouded before. And it's the easiest thing in the world. But if you get into the habit of gratitude where you're like, oh my God, this is awesome.
And it sounds funny. If people are out of the loop, they're like, what are you guys talking about?
I know.
You're happy you saw a fat guy eating a pizza. You're happy you saw a bumblebee. Get the fuck out of your head. Out of the clouds. What are you on drugs? No, we're not on drugs. We're literally have our eyes. We're lucky that we're comedians, that we have time on our hands and you know, to think and do this kind of stuff, you know? Like I'm sure like if I was busy, you know.
But also think about all the stuff in your life that's at that core foundation. Like I think sometimes when I think about how I've changed my perspective on things, I also don't think about the basics. Like I exercise all the time. I think that's necessary. You just brought over some farm fresh, delicious produce. When I eat cleaner, I take this scoop of this green stuff every day. It's like 8 servings of vegetables and superfoods like goji berry, acai. When I'm taking that stuff, I'm starting to get into cardio. I hate cardio, but I feel so good afterwards. Diet, exercise, relationships, hanging out with your friends is necessary.
Yeah.
Hanging out with your family is necessary. Having close bonds, waking up every day with purpose. All of those things start to rewire your brain.
I saw a great quote. It said, purpose is a heck of an alarm clock.
Yes.
You know? And it's true when you just feel you're wandering like a rudderless ship out there and you kind of got the depression, you know, the blues, things aren't happening. And it's not, like you said, make that list, eat a little healthier, get some cardio, have a little, my wife is great at this. She'll make a list and then cross things off.
Awesome.
I love that. It's like,
did you happen to see that meme All Things Comedy shared with Richard Pryor?
No.
It was interesting. And I'll paraphrase it because I don't have it in front of me. But it was essentially like Richard Pryor was like, I've worked hard to get mansions and money and girls and cars and status. And he was like, I would trade all of that for a little bit of peace of mind. And I think what we're talking about is it is that peace of mind. I think like, you know, when you have appreciation for what you do have, and then you start to treat people in a way that is better, more ethical. Like you talked at the top of the podcast about being a nice guy, but that's the gift you give yourself.
Yeah.
Like I have a friend that's in recovery. He's awesome. And he says this, he goes, if you want to feel good, do good. And that's so true. And like I have been fortunate enough to be involved with this nonprofit called Regular Hero. And I've gotten to meet a lot of really cool people that have needed help. And you talk about purpose and you talk about feeling good. There's nothing better than helping somebody that really, really needs it. It's the secret. Like I remember I had a friend, William, God rest his soul, who was an 18-year-old kid at the hospital. And I don't know, man. Life can get so complicated. And you never know if you're really focusing on the right stuff or doing the right things. Or, do you know what I mean? Like I'm always like, if I'm at the Comedy Store, I'm like, should I be at home working on my movie? Should I be on the phone with my parents? Should I be appreciating my girlfriend? Should I? But when I would spend time with William, I remember once, he wasn't in a good place emotionally, obviously. And I hung out with him, and I made him laugh, and we had this amazing talk. And I spent a couple hours with him until he fell asleep. And when I left his hospital room, he had given me the gift. Because I had so much peace about me. And I had this feeling that no matter where I was in the world, what any of my other options could have been, that was the best use of my time. It felt amazing. And it's so rare in life that you get that peace. But I think there's a correlation between, quote unquote, doing the right thing and having that peace.
Yeah. some people take the shortcut. They're like, I want to feel good, so they'll do like
drugs, alcohol,
yeah,
cheat.
It was almost
sex,
yes,
food. It's like we were talking about.
Yeah.
Like I rattled off all that delicious stuff.
Yeah,
but like, let me tell you something.
the
Not
price
eating,
you pay.
Yeah, but not like fasting for 15 hours is the best. It's like, do you ever listen to that guy, Jocko Willink?
Yeah.
Discipline is freedom. There's a lot of truth to that.
He wakes up, I know, like
4:30 every morning.
4:30 a.m. It's like, I remember one time I tweeted to him, and he actually liked it. It was cool.
Him and Theo Vaughn did a podcast. I have to hear it.
I gotta check that out.
I'm so jealous. I think Jocko's the coolest.
So cool, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I know it's time to go to sleep when I see Jocko's Instagram posts.
Oh, that's hysterical.
I'm like, oh, right. I guess it's, but I haven't been going to...
Darren, that's hysterical. Did he like that? Is that the one he responded to? That's
funny.
hysterical.
Yeah. I was like, all right, it's time to go to bed now. Jocko's up. It's like, but I stopped doing that. I go to bed earlier now because I like getting up earlier, Can you imagine having the discipline? Now, my buddy wants to do this. Shout out to Carl Dolphin.
That's a cool name,
Cool
Carl.
name, man. I've known him since I was 15. One of my best
a really
friends.
Cool name.
Great kid, great guy, great kid. We're the same age. But he's like, I want to. He's like, I'm gonna get the discipline. He's getting close to waking up at 4 a.m. Wow. Yeah. He goes, I want to like.
Life,
he goes, think about. He goes, because I thought about like, if I could do that, all the things I would have done. And it's still only 8 a.m. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Get all whatever those things are.
Let me tell
write
you
your
something.
journal, the laundry, the musical instruments.
My favorite people in the world are old people.
Mm-hmm.
They're my favorite.
Maybe that's why they get it. Honey. Have you ever noticed? Young people, we want more, we want to stay up late. And older people, they're getting up. So maybe a shift happens where you do get wiser.
Yes.
And you're like, nothing's really happening.
Dude, have you ever
after...
been to a breakfast place?
Yeah.
At 7, it's a bar for old people.
Yeah.
They know everybody. They're flirting. It's
the
the best.
early bird special.
But I used to work at Gold's Gym in Venice, and I used to open up the pro shop at 5 a.m. The gym would open up at like 3:30 or 4. But then an hour later, the pro shop would open at 5. And it was the winners that work out at that time of the day were people that were just killing life.
Wow. And they were happy. They weren't just like,
oh, no.
Yeah.
You were talking about like private jet money, I call it.
And wow. And happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that thing you said. People aren't smiling in a Ferrari, or what is that thing you said?
Oh, yeah. That joke.
Very...
Like I've never seen somebody in a Ferrari with a smile on their face. And I would juxtapose that with like the family and the broken down Camry.
Totally.
Yeah, because it's not what you have; it's who you're with.
Yep. I noticed. I thought of that the other day when I went for a jog and I saw a group of 4 people. They looked kind of poor actually, and it was during the day, just like me. None of us were working, right. And they were giggling and having a good time. And I'm like, this is what life is. They're having the time of their lives.
That's it.
It's like,
dude, if you're with the right people, the smallest things become joy. Like the littlest things, having laughs with your dude. There's not, and the closer you get to people, the more intimate the relationship, the more enjoyable. But because like I can just look at my brother, and he can just look at me, and we will die.
Yeah, you just give each other that look. Like, I know.
Yeah, I remember I had a buddy in college that had certain nervous tics, and my buddy pointed them out once, like just different ways he would move his body. And then whenever he would do it, my buddy would just give me a look, and I would buckle with laughter. Family laughs are as good as it gets.
Was it Demi Lovato recently that OD'd?
Yeah.
I remember like the headline in the newspaper was that cliche that they say, ODs in mansion.
It's
and I'm
heartbreaking.
like, that's like a cliche. It's like, it's sad, And I thought about you back to you, and it's those little things in life. Like, you don't want to be the person that's like, I got it all, but it's still not enough.
It's terrible.
Because you might think like for a minute there, you're like, mansion, but then, you know what? Then now when you're, we all want to be. I want to be successful, but at that level, you're still chasing like more and more and more, and then you got more problems, more people suing you, more this, more that. You got to
Biggie Smalls, more money, more problems.
Yeah, you're busy. Your schedule's so busy that you don't even have a moment of like,
I think somewhere along the line, I remember making the resolution to just enjoy something every day. Because it's so easy not to. It's so easy to just go from task to task to task, and also not rewarding yourself for accomplishing things. Like one of the ways I kept myself miserable is I was always moving the finish line. It was never enough. But then I started to go, no, celebrate this. Celebrate the fact that you just had a really good show, or celebrate the fact that you got a meeting. Like, you know what I'm so grateful for in my life right now is starting jiu-jitsu. And I'm not bad. I am atrocious. Like
how many weeks or months are you into it?
I'm a couple months in, but because of the traveling and stuff, I don't know how many classes.
Yeah.
But I met a guy that's really cool today. He was like, "What is this? Like your second class?" I'm like, "Oh no, this is easily my 20th or 25th." I'm like, "I'm terrible."
Yeah.
But he loved my attitude, and I'm like, "Man, I'm just happy that I'm here. I have no expectations. I'm just gonna keep on showing up, and I'm gonna suck at this for a long, long time." And it's sort of like you let go of your ego.
Yeah.
You celebrate the fact that you're there. You know, like it is brutal. Like you're boxing. You know how it's brutal. Yeah. Getting punched in the face is terrible. Like I got through corporate America because I would go like this. I'd go, I could just leave. I remember being in my cubicle and I would go, I can just leave. I can just get out of my cubicle right now. I won't make eye contact with anybody. I don't need to explain myself. I can just get in my car, go home, and I'll never come back. Honestly, that's how I got through it. There were times where it was that bad. Now, there are times in jiu-jitsu where I can't do that because the guy on top of me, I can't move. I'm fat. I'm old. I'm a non-athlete. By the time we finish our warm-ups, I'm like, thank you, coach. I'm good. Like I'm ready to go home. I'm drenched in sweat.
Funny?
I'm hurting. Yeah. I'm numb. But
you got to keep up on it because I took about 6 days off, maybe a week, and I went back today, and it was like I was getting sore. After just 3 rounds of jump rope, 2 rounds of shadow boxing, and I'm sweating. And I put the gloves on, and they felt heavy after the first round. I'm like, oh my god,
it's amazing.
I can't be sitting here moaning and groaning because there's pro boxers in there. With me, there's no ego. It's like because there's nobody that's normal in there. They're all like athletes.
So good.
Fights on TV this weekend or the next
that's
weekend,
amazing.
and murals are on the wall. And I'm showing. I brought Austin to the boxing gym. He loves it. He loves it. And
dude, that'll be good for him.
I get to show him like this is I get to introduce him to people, and he sees him on TV, and
that's so cool.
It's so cool, and he does taekwondo, so it's kind of neat.
That's awesome.
He's like taekwondo is like boxing with your feet, He's like boxing is like taekwondo with your hands. It's like interesting to,
That's awesome.
I showed him a video of me hitting the bag, and I go, "What do you think, son?" Because so this guy, Sergey Lipinets, he won the title. He won a fight, so he's like the welterweight of the IBC, whatever. He won it he won it, and then his very next fight was Mikey Garcia, who's like 6-time world champion or something like that,
right.
And he lost to Mikey. But his most recent fight, which was Saturday, was on Fox. He won again.
That's amazing.
So this guy's like incredible. I mean, he's a
world class
Russian guy that's like like real loud. He's loud. He punches. So I showed.
Dude,
Austin.
aren't Russians awesome?
They're awesome.
They're the coolest people.
And
I lived in an all Russian neighborhood in Hollywood, and it was and they would all come into the boxing gym, and I'm like, the 80s got it wrong, man. Like these guys are cool.
They're friendly. They're a couple of guys follow me on Instagram, and I don't know how good their English is, but they like my posts, and they're
so happy to be
They're
here.
happy. And they're boxers. Like you would think they're like no. They're like.
Have you noticed the tougher the guy, the nicer they are?
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Absolutely. Buddy McGirt. He did the podcast. 2-time world champ. Buddy McGirt. Always cracking up. Always telling jokes. The funniest guy. He should have been a comedian.
Yeah.
I asked him, he's in his 50s. He's solid. Because I realized like they actually, when they're holding those mitts, that's exercise. Because the people are punching, they got to punch back.
Yeah.
And so he's a trainer. He trains them. And he's always on TV too. And I go, one time he cracked a joke. And I go, buddy, because I patted him on the shoulder. I go, you're so solid. How much do you like exercise nowadays? And he goes, I do like 30 push-ups, maybe 50 in the morning, 30, 50 at night. He goes, Darren, I got daughters. So I got to be able to, if something happens with their boyfriends, I got to be able to last at least one round. He goes, I'll punch. I'll do one punch. They don't go down. I'll do another punch. They don't go down. That still gives me 2 minutes to run to the cops. He's just constantly cracking jokes like that, One time I go, hey, what's my fighting style? And he goes, praying mantis. Because I had my ass out, like, you know. And then one time I was hitting the bag. I go, hey, do you think I got what it takes? If you could take what they got. And then another time, he'll always give a different punchline. I go, what do you? Hey, look at this, buddy. What do you think of that? And he goes, don't quit your day job.
Have you ever thought about writing like a TV show about that?
That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a cool environment.
It'd be cool. But back to my son, I go, Austin, what do you think of? I go, what do you think of me hitting this bag? Pretty good, huh? Because I'm thinking about the technique. You know how they say twist your hips and your shoulders. And
Yeah,
your
it's
toe
all everything's technique.
And he's like, he looks at it and he goes, you're not as loud as Sergei Lipinets. You're not as fast as Sergei Lipinets. It doesn't look as, you're nothing like Sergei Lipinets. I'm like,
hilarious.
Oh gosh, you know. So I did another video, which I'll probably show you after we did this podcast. Because I put, you know, guys, listen, listeners, if you ever want free boxing lessons, free boxing instructions.
I do.
Here's what you do. Video yourself punching a heavy bag, put it on Facebook, and everybody and their brother will come out of the woodwork and give you advice on what you're doing wrong.
hysterical.
Because they're all, you dropped your hand. You did this wrong. You did that wrong. It's hilarious. So I did it. They said I was too slow.
Everybody's so critical.
They're right. But it's still. So I shot another video today. I went to the boxing coach, Manny. Shout out to Manny. And I go, dude, they said I was too slow, but I wasn't trying to be fast. And he goes, oh, we're going to fix. He's from the Philippines. We're going to fix that. And he looks at my gloves.
Are just awesome.
My gloves are 16 ounce. He goes, we'll video again today. I go, today? I'm not even. No, today. He goes, with 10 ounce gloves instead of 16.
Oh, that's great.
And so he comes over, he starts giggling, and he goes, to tell you the truth, I think these are for the children, but it's okay for the video.
Oh, that's great.
So I'm hitting it a lot faster, but it's between me, you, and the listeners. It's because I'm wearing children's boxing gloves.
Hilarious.
But you can't really tell, you know. But yeah, it's but you're right. I like going to a place like that where it's like everyone has like a common goal, and you know, and you're learning a skill, and you're learning to get in shape, and you're learning cool exercises, and you're learning like to do something. And at the end,
so cool.
You're sore, your body feels good, and you know, I mean, come on, Rocky, those movies were so inspirational. You know, and like, you know, back to whenever I get a time of like feeling depression or the blues, I go back.
Watch Rocky.
Rocky.
It's that simple.
I love the line in Creed. One every day is, what is it? It goes up, one step, one punch, one round at a time. You know, and that's what it is. It's
that
step,
is life.
One punch, one round at a time. If you can just get through this moment, you know,
that's it.
If you can just do this one, you know what? You know, maybe in the comedy world, maybe your gig did get canceled, and maybe your agent didn't, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's all right. Record a podcast, put it up, boom. Work on a YouTube video, get it out there just every day. And then the next thing you know, people are seeing that you're doing something. You're like that little bumblebee going from flower to flower.
Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden they hit you up. Hey, Darren, are you available to do this? Yes, I am. I mean, I was on 4th of July watching fireworks with my family up at Universal Studios. I get a text message from one of the managers of the Improv in Florida. And she's like, random question. And I hadn't spoke with her in a while.
Yeah.
And she's like, are you available? And I'm like, yes. I looked at my calendar. I am available. She's like, all right, I want to email the book. Next thing you know, I got a gig. And it was
That's awesome.
And I think it's because, you know, I'm
put your stuff out there.
Put stuff out there, not trying to, you know, and just live your life. Because I could have stayed home and been depressed and been like, it's 4th of July and, you know, whatever. But I was like, let me go out with the family. And then random stuff comes back.
Persistence.
If you guys have a dream, you go for it. And also, like a little thing, and I've said this before, and I really believe this, when you're time to do whatever that dream is, whatever that thing is, and you're really ready, and you're, you know, give yourself a deadline, because they say without a deadline, a goal is just a dream. So give yourself, like, if you know, okay, I want to do this, whatever that thing is, like with the podcast, I said, I want to start by this particular date. And I went on YouTube, looked at some tutorials. How do I do it? I asked a bunch of questions, talked to friends.
Yeah.
And I started, and I gave myself that deadline, and I started, and just give yourself permission. Hey, I'm not going to be good at first.
Exactly. That's my point.
Not going to be good at first. And it's like,
and then break it down to more achievable goals too. Like, I've always hated cardio, you know, but the podcast that really did in a lot of ways change my life. I found it so inspirational. Was listening to David Goggins on the Joe Rogan Experience. So and David Goggins, you know, is a active duty U.S. Navy SEAL. Thank you for your service. And a world-class endurance athlete, you know. And he was talking about when he changed his life around.
Yeah, when he was like 300 pounds, drinking chocolate shakes. And
so you know what I'm doing now on the treadmill? I'm like, okay, dude, you're going to the gym. You're going to listen to your music. That'll be the reward. You get to listen to your music. So I start getting loose on the treadmill, and I'm like, can you run for 30 seconds? I know this sounds terrible, but it's like, can you run for 30 seconds? And I'm like, you can do 30.
Yeah.
Then I lower my heart rate again. I'm like, do you add another 30 seconds in you? I'm like, yes. Then I'm like, are you ready for a minute? Then I'll run for a minute. Then I'm like, let's see if we can sprint for 30 seconds. You know what? You just ran for a minute. See if you can sprint for a minute. And then I keep on doing that and adding it. Because as they say, it's progress, not perfection. If you just do one more push-up. You don't need to do 100 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Start with 1, and the next day hit 2. There's little baby steps. 1 step. What is it? 1 step, one punch,
one punch, one round
round
at a time.
That's it.
David Goggins, man, that guy was great.
The coolest.
Do you follow him on Instagram?
Yes.
Where he's like flipping
I
tires?
follow all those guys.
I believe every day you should do something that sucks. Something you don't want to do because it calluses your mind. I don't want to be out here flipping tires. As he's flipping a big-ass tire.
Yep.
But I'm going to flip it for a mile because I believe. Yeah.
He's
Something
incredible.
like that. It's like,
Yeah.
When I listened to him one day, I was out there running, and I was thinking, man, if he's running ultra marathons, not just a marathon, but like 100 miles. He talked about running 200 miles.
He told that story about running a 100-mile marathon, I think it was.
Yeah.
And he was squatting or deadlifting like 400 pounds the night before and had no training.
When I listened to that, I was like, okay, I can run 2 miles without stopping. Like, because I don't run that much either. I run and then I slow it down to like a walk, and then I'm like, I pick it up again. But when I heard that, I'm like, let me just. So now what I do when I run, if I can, I'll I'm jogging. If I feel like stopping, I'll just like tell myself, slow down, just go to like a trot.
Right.
Because you know what happens is you won't walk. You'll go from a run to like a trot.
Yep.
And then just out of pure boredom, that trot turns into like a faster paced jog, and then next thing you know, you're running again. You know.
Yes, and that's such a great metaphor for life, because it will get bumpy and it will get very, very difficult. I think that's one thing that gets missed in a lot of positive thinking stuff. And I also think people that are really good at stuff, like I was talking to my girlfriend about this today, like, you're awesome at something when people go, I could do that. You know? Like they
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a boxer that's world class is so good at it, you could go, oh yeah, I think I could do that. You don't.
Yeah.
And there are people that are so positive in their lives, they're killing life so hard that for people like myself that struggle, where you go, oh, this is really, really difficult.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to get in shape. It's really difficult to eat healthy food. It's really but achievable goals, attainable goals, slow and steady. Don't give up.
Right.
That's it. As long as you just keep showing up.
Yeah, because you might give up.
What's the easiest thing
You
in the
might
world?
be,
Is to
and
give
but
up.
that's a lesson too, because I know someone that was like, I'm going to do 200 push-ups and 200 sit-ups every day, and then it's kind of a high goal. And then they would skip a day, so they'd make up and be like, okay, I do 400, and it's and then they'd go back to the 200, and then if you skip a couple days, now you're like, okay, if I got to do 600 a day. I mean, it's just that was a little.
Exactly.
I go, let's try this
Chunk
again.
it down, attainable.
Yeah, I said, let's do something. I flipped it. I said, why don't you help me instead of doing 200, help me do 100. Just do 100 with me. Help me out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So cool.
Man, thank you very much for doing the podcast.
It's over already? I feel like we're just getting into it.
We can keep going. We can
Yeah,
keep going.
you know what we could do? You can come on Good Times, and we just keep on going back and forth on each other's podcasts. So we have excuses to hang out.
That would be awesome. That would be great. You guys, Steve is great. Follow him. Tell everybody where they can follow
it's
you.
Steve, Simeone, comedy. That's my Instagram. It's Steve Simeone Comedy. My website is stevesimone.com or awesomesteve.com. My podcast is called Good Times, at Steve Simeone on Twitter. I have a new baseball card in the Topps Allen and Kinter set. So if you open up those packs and you get my card, that's pretty cool.
That's cool. I saw that on Instagram, I believe.
Yeah, I just think that's cool. And thanks for letting me hang out, buddy.
You're welcome. I ask people on the podcast a lot. I say, hey, can you tell our listeners, young people or whoever, maybe they're if they, but this might not even apply to you, but if you can think of something, I ask the guest, usually I'll end it, say, can you give some words of wisdom, some advice, something you've learned in your life that you can share with somebody?
You know what? It's a big one.
Yeah.
Comes up often. You are worthy. I think I look back at bad decisions I've made in my life or dark times and realized my what I did to create that. I think it's very easy to blame situations and blame other people. But our lives are a result of us. If you don't like your life, you have the power to change it. It won't happen overnight. It's a series of little baby steps, progress, not perfection. And when I think back to the biggest mistakes in my life, I made them because I was, number one, ignorant, had no idea that I was doing it wrong. Fear and ignorance. And underneath that stuff, I think a big problem with the world is people deep down psychologically don't feel worthy. They feel like they need to earn friends. They need to earn respect. They need to earn, like, hey man, the way I look at it I'm a Christian. I believe God created us in his own image. And there's nothing we can do that'll separate us from his love. And rest on that you're loved from this infinite source. And there was a lot of times in my life where I didn't feel connected to that source of love. But whenever I am connected to that source of love, man, there's nothing to be afraid of.
And you know what, guys? Steve does something that I think I'm going to try. Like, I've heard somebody was saying they were traveling. Here's my point is, you will, when you're on the road, you don't get caught up in the bullshit. You're like, you know what? I'm gonna find a church. I'm gonna go to a church in this town. Like, somebody was saying how they went to was it Denmark or wherever drugs and prostitution is legal?
Yeah.
And they're like, you got to try this. And you're like, well, actually, I went there and found a church. Which I got to be honest. I'm sure on the flight home, there's many, many people that left that area going, God, why did I do that? I shouldn't have done that. I was, I'm, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You probably left that place going, that was a really cool experience.
I remember once being in Las Vegas, and the priest was fantastic. The priest had Elvis hair.
I love it.
But it was like white because he was an old guy, but it was Elvis like
he wasn't
style
trying to do an
pompadour.
Elvis impression. He just
one
of those old school dudes.
And I brought some other comedians with me, and the best was the priest was pretty funny. And right before he ended church, he goes like this. Before he ended mass, he goes, and just for anybody out there wondering, yes, going to church in Las Vegas counts as extra credit. And everybody laughed. It was
like,
great.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
it was great.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, I think there's like some cool advice that we sprinkled in through all this. Hey, man, I don't really have anything figured out other than this is all a gift. Be cool to each other. Celebrate the fact that it's a gift. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Whatever you want, give it away. Yeah. Like just the nicer you are to people, it comes back to you.
It's what you give, not what you get.
100%.
Like it totally, like, that whole hoarding mentality where people, I'm going to hoard information and not tell people. I remember one time I did somebody's podcast, and I happened to bring up Joe Rogan or something.
Yeah, the guy's amazing.
It's awesome. I love it because
he's the coolest person
these
there
really
is.
smart people, and it's cool to, like, wow, like whoever you're into, like if you go through Joe Rogan's podcast of guests, you're like, it could be rock stars, political people, athletes.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's a great resource, and it's so cool
Athletes, entertainers, philosophers, scientists.
And I remember as I was doing this one dude's podcast, he was like giving me the cut it sign, like, we don't mention other people's podcasts because, like, what, they're gonna hit pause and like start. Like,
well, if that, people.
Like that guy was coming from a place of fear. Of,
exactly.
don't mention anything. It's like, dude, just relax. Like, there's
so
plenty,
sad.
and I'm thankful that there is, like you said, the podcast medium, because back in the day you wouldn't get those great interviews. It was very rare. Like, I mean, I think really back in the day you would on television, right, when they would have like 1 hour, like with some, like
Dick Cavett or one of those types of interview shows.
Kind of, but with radio, they're so, okay, we got to take a break every 7 minutes, and it can be
You
kind of
think about
annoying.
how much easier it is to access information now. We used to have to go to a library and take out an encyclopedia and not really understand anything. Now you hear the best in the world, essentially.
You know what I've been doing on the podcast? I'm going to do this again. I love doing this. You get curious, and now we can look up stuff. It's literally at our fingertips. I was thinking about Mike Tyson's last fight, and I thought, so here's Mike Tyson. I knew about him, what seems like my whole life. Hey, Mike Tyson, it's, just the voice and just the way he is and being champion. How
Larger
scary,
than life.
How scary he was, and I
But
look at my
larger than
opponents
life
and
character.
Yeah,
Larger than life talent.
So
we
good.
grew up in such a good era, dude.
We did. We had real icons, not like
Icons.
these idiots on these reality shows, whatever. That it's not their fault. Somebody finds them and like, this will make good television, But so I was thinking about Mike Tyson's because after interviewing Buddy McGirt, 2-time world champion, 80 fights, he won all of them except 6, and the people that he lost, he went back and a lot of those guys he beat. He's great. Watch footage of him, anyways. But so I thought about Mike Tyson. I thought, what was his last fight like? What happened? And I did like not a whole podcast on it, but I did like a segment, and I want to keep doing that where you look up stuff because he lost to a guy. I want to say his name was Kevin McBride, this Irish guy out of Boston. And if my memory serves me right, Mike Tyson on the 6th round didn't even get off his stool. He pretty much threw the towel in and he quit.
Wow.
And when they interviewed Mike Tyson, he was like. He goes, no disrespect to him, but I should not be losing to a guy of this caliber. I mean, anybody that knows boxing knows I shouldn't. This is not, I should have quit a long time ago. And just, and they go, Mike, when did you quit, basically? And he was like, after 1990, my heart wasn't into it. I just do it for the money, just to make a living, put food on the table.
Wow.
And it was. So if there's anything out there that you want to know, it's cool. Like with podcasting, you can be like, I want to know what this is about. And then I wanted to know what that guy Kevin McBride, what was his next fight like? And once again, if my memory serves me right, I think he won the next fight. And then, so he probably got a pretty good payday the next fight.
Yeah.
And then the next one, I think he lost. But at that point, he was making probably some good money. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I
want the best for everybody.
Yeah.
There was something just so tragic about Mike Tyson, right? Like, I remember just seeing the vulnerability in that guy, And what a cool sports figure. Grateful that I got to see that guy in his prime. And, man, just what you said just hit me. You know what I mean? Like he said his heart wasn't in it since 1990.
Yeah. Is your heart into comedy, stand-up?
Yes. Yeah. Because I love people, and it's my way to connect with people. That's it.
Yeah, because we've both met comedians that they're doing it for the just to put just to make money, and that's
dude, that's the dumbest thing in the world. If you're just doing comedy to make money, you can make more money working retail. But I
But we've met those kind of guys, and you're just like, oh boy, I don't know why they're doing it still, but
I just love people. That's it.
Comedy's the best. I
go through ebbs and flows with it. There are times where I'm like, ugh. But right now I'm writing a lot of new stuff. I'm working out some new stuff.
Yeah.
And it's exciting.
There's parts that can wear down on you. Maybe the travel or the.
And the lack of opportunities.
Yes.
And all the hard work for.
Yeah.
You don't see the results. But you just have to be confident.
Those moments on stage, man. I had to. I think I told you, so I was a little bit bummed out, and then I did a spot last night at the Comedy Store. I'm going to show you this thing just real quick. And so I was a little bit bummed. Those days where you're just a little bit like, oh, this and that and blah, blah, blah. And then the battery on my car, I got to get a new battery, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And you're just like, but I took a shower. Nice. I've been taking I think, is it Wim Hof or something?
Oh yeah, taking the cold showers.
Yes,
that's incredible.
So I don't go with.
I did that for a while. I can't. Do
it. I don't take the whole shower cold. I go with kind of like a warm, but not hot, but like a warm to cool shower. And then at the end, I make it colder and colder. And then, by the way, here in LA, it doesn't. At least where I live in Burbank, it doesn't get that. It gets cold, but not real cold. I've tried this when I was in Reno and also in Lake Tahoe, and also when I was in Alaska. There's a whole other region of cold. It's like really cold. It's like, But anyway, so that's if you guys can find your passion or for Steve and I, it's stand-up comedy and podcasting but I drove down there and I was like, like, okay, like I was a little bit bummed out, but I'm telling you, it all goes away. The shower woke me up, the coffee. I get down there, see my friends at the Comedy Store. I get on stage, and look at that picture that Troy Conrad takes. He's the best.
Look he's very talented.
He just happened to capture that moment.
That's
Those girls are
awesome.
laughing.
Dying. They are dying.
Look at that. That was just a wonderful night, and he sent me about 9 of those kind of photos.
But he's the coolest.
Official Darren Carter on Instagram. But that's what I love. I love that. It's like,
that's why you do it.
I'm not selling out theaters yet. I'm not overdosing in my mansion yet. I'm not like, no, I never would do that ever. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, but those are the moments that I love. Like,
amen.
You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff, And I like saying the word yet. Like my son, I've learned that from my son. I'll say, hey, do you know how to play this? And then he's like, not yet. It's so awesome.
So cool.
Listen, I want to thank you again. You're the guest I wanted to have since the beginning.
Hope it was okay.
No, it's great. It's like, and I love the real talk. They can get Morning Zoo from their Morning Zoo. They can get the wacka wacka, blah, 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 all that shit from our stand-up acts. They can go on. They can look. They can listen. Plug your album. You have a great.
It's called What's Up, Nerds. No bad words on it at all. Total family-friendly comedy.
That's great.
Yeah.
I've been trying not to curse as much, and it started trying not to curse, and then I've been able to like not curse.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's great, right? And it's like,
it's just great because
sometimes I'll curse, but
my favorite comedians are filthy and their approaches.
Yeah.
But it's just like, hey man, I remember being a little kid and loving comedy, and my parents exposed us to Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy. I was 8 and I heard curse words. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what brought them joy, I remember my dad being like, this guy doesn't even need to curse.
Yeah.
He's not working blue. And I just want to pass that gift along.
Yeah.
So then maybe there are some parents out there that are a little more strict, and their kids, the only thing I just want to inspire the next generation of comedians. That's it. Like, just plant the seed on, like, even if like 10 years from now, some kid is like, I started that dork Steve Simeone, and then I found Darren Carter, which was cool. And then I got to like Bobby Lee and Krista Lee. Like, awesome.
Yeah.
Like, whatever it is, man.
It's fun for me to say fudge instead of saying the.
I think it's funnier.
Every now and then I still curse, but it's like, but I look back at like a film,
and I don't have a problem with it.
For me personally, I look back at like a thing that I did like 6 years ago. I was just watching it today, and I'm like, oh, I'm cursing a lot, like randomly. Like I didn't need to do it back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
where
I
it's
don't
like
need to do it now.
where I was like, it was just lazy speech on my part, for me. But you look at David Goggins, that guy curses a lot.
Yeah.
And I think he does it on purpose. I think even when he does like those speeches, like at corporations, he's cursing.
Well, I remember Tony Robbins once saying that when you curse,
he curses too. Huh?
People say it's more subconsciously they think the message is more authentic because it's still kind of taboo to curse. But for me, I just consider my audience. That's it, and it's also a challenge to me.
I'm telling you, I did comedy at a church about 2 months ago. And I was a little nervous because there's that part of me that's like, oh boy, what am I getting into? But it was a Saturday night. It was couples, and they were like, they wanted to give couples a place to have fun on a Saturday night, and it was great because they know there's no expectations. They know you're not going to go down those roads.
Right.
And it was like, honestly, it was awesome. It felt like I was taking a nice jacuzzi. It was like, it was that easy because you could talk about whatever, you could talk about like the little things, like I was talking about my wife and I, and just those little things, like those little relationship things that happen, and and they were like loving it, as opposed to like like sometimes you go like I did, not to knock other comedians, but they were a little bit more learning how to do it, and I'm like, every comedian was super filthy, super dirty, but it wasn't really that funny. It was more disgusting.
It's a lot of that. It's part of the life cycle.
Somebody said they give
learning curve.
Somebody said they give it I think it was Adam Carolla, but he was talking about television. He calls it the lasagna test. Can I eat my lasagna while watching this, or will I push the plate away because I don't want to eat while watching this? But he was talking about like gross reality type shows.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I thought about that when it comes to certain kinds of disgusting stand-up that isn't quite funny yet.
Yeah. Just young comics. I just see them sometimes. Like, all right, they're learning.
Yeah,
That's
I was that too. I mean,
yeah, me too.
I look back at my old stuff. Do you remember your dirtiest, dumbest joke from back in the day?
No, I had so many.
Can I tell you mine?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is about 40 pounds ago. I used to go, and I also had a bright, full head of red hair, and I used to go. It's my first year into comedy. I'd be like, "Hey, I'm white. I'm skinny. I went to a nude beach. This fat lady thought I was a tampon." And then I'd go, and then put my hands down by and I'd act like I'm real, like bouncing around, kind of like a Beaker from the Muppets.
The best.
And then I go, I'm white. I'm skinny. This fat lady thought I was a tampon. And then she saw my red hair and said, "Ooh, he's been used." And then I'd point out to somebody in the audience. I go, "That goes out to you. No strings attached." See, and that's the thing. Like, back then, like these a-hole like B-list headliners would see that kind of stuff and be some of them would be nice to me, but some would be mean to me. Like if I see a comic, I'm not mean to them. Like
No.
I'm like, that's not my cup
Common
of tea.
courtesy.
But I'll find something about them that I liked, or I'll be cool with them. I'm not gonna, Has anyone ever been a jerk to you? Like when you were up and coming? Like,
I'm sure. I just don't focus on it. I just try to be the person I wanted to meet.
Yeah.
And I do remember all the people that were nice to me. And I try to be that for the next generation, for sure. Because it's a very difficult thing.
You know what? Somebody sent me a message today, and this is I don't know why I thought of this.
Hold on, I'm going to go grab a cup. I'm so thirsty right now. I'm going to get water.
Go grab a cup. I'm going to say this. That'd be fun if I just took over your house right here. And we're back. The solo podcast. Yes. Somebody sent me a message. And now this is just, it was kind of funny. He sent me on Instagram. He goes, "This is really nice." He goes, "When I see you and your son together," he goes, "I wish you were my dad when I was growing up." And I thought that's really,
the best compliment you can get.
That's cool.
Yeah.
If you had no disrespect to anybody's parents or anything like that, but if you do have a child, try to be the parent that you wish you would have had. If you have a friend, be the friend that you wish you know what I mean? Be
Amen.
your own. Yeah.
We all know that.
That's it.
That's how you make the world a better place, right? Like instead of... My dad used to tell me that assholism was contagious. That if you hang out with assholes, you turn into one. How's that for not cursing? And
it was your father.
Like, the easiest way, the best way to change the world is you can break cycles that way, right? Like somebody can treat you, and I have a problem with that. It's like when I'm driving. Like when people are just so profoundly selfish, it drives me crazy. And but the point is not to have. Do you ever read the Stoics?
No.
Like those old Greek philosopher guys. Like the thing is, you can't let that. You give them too much power. If somebody cuts you off in traffic, and then you're like, "I'll kill you," or "What are you doing?" Or then you try to cut somebody else.
I'm gonna
off.
get in front of you, turn up my
windshield wipers. It's the dumbest thing ever, and it's
rage.
But you see in life how patterns repeat themselves, right? Like. People that had stinky parents become a stinky parent, and then their kids become stinky parents, and the cycle repeats. But one thing you can do is you can take like what I was talking about earlier. You can take responsibility for your life, and turn negatives into positives that way. Become the person you wanted. Break that cycle.
I notice when I exercise and I'm really, you've exhausted. It's like you just want to go home and I chill. You know what's funny? I don't even speed. I go like slow. I go like the speed limit. I'm just, you guys go ahead. Like, if you want to go ahead. I just want to go home and, and relax. And it's like sometimes it almost feels more powerful to let people merge. Where it's like I'm letting you go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
You go. You know what I mean?
I think that's part of it. Like my younger brother thinks depression is like when you have too many windows open up on your iPhone, and you have too much stuff going on in your brain. Like, it's kind of like if you take on too much and you're always in a rush, you're not going to have any peace. But, like, today we went to Pizzanista downtown, and it said it would be, like, 40 minutes away or whatever. So I left, like, an hour and 10 minutes early. So there was no... Even if we were late, it wasn't going to be much of a late. But we got there early. We could park. You could take our time.
That's a gift I'm learning. My wife is really good at being on time, and she's taught me that. And it's like, it's great. I give myself a lot of time now.
You have to.
And it feels better. You're not stressed.
That's why tonight you were like, "Do you want to meet at 10 still?" And I went, "Make it 10:20."
Perfect.
Because then I was like, that way we don't have to work. It's not as stressful.
Yep, and then I parked and I called and I'm like, I'm down here right now. It's
Less
like
is more.
It wasn't.
I never really like this conversation is making me realize that like to have gratitude, to enjoy life, to do all that stuff. Like sometimes you have to do less Because if it's, you know what mistake I used to make as a young comic? Instead of adjusting my set to the amount of time that I was given, I'd still try to get all my jokes in.
Oh yeah, I used to do that too.
And you can't take 15 minutes worth of material and do it in 7. You can't.
You're right. I learned that early on. I remember I had a roommate way back in the day, and I'd go, hey, I have these 2 shows, and one was a 10-minute spot, and one was a 30-minute spot. And I thought the 10-minute spot was where I was like, I'm destroying. But no, he said because you're not even waiting for the laughs. You're just talking a mile a minute, and then
Yes, I used to.
in the 31, I was trying to stretch a little bit, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I looked more confident and relaxed. And it was
Yep.
like, I was sort of like, I'd tell a joke and then meander, but it came across as like confident and better.
Yes. Man.
People who don't know this, Steve, one of his biggest breaks started out with Pauly Shore.
Yeah.
Pauly, they had a comedy contest or something, and you were doing you got to perform or something with Pauly?
Yeah, he was a guest judge, and he did it. He closed out this thing. But that was back in Philly before I moved out here.
What a break. I could see that. You had that break. You come to the Comedy Store, which
Yep.
he's a legend of the Comedy Store. His mom, Mitzi Shore, rest her soul.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd probably been on stage maybe 10 or 15 times. I remember driving up to open mic to do, I guess it was a bringer show, and I didn't realize it at the time. Did 2 of those in New York. I performed at a club in Baltimore. Probably did 8 shows there. Probably 4 bar shows in Delaware. A couple open mics in Philly. Yeah, maybe 20 times before I moved out here, and winning that contest. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. I've been on stage 20 times.
that's good though. See, some people never would have did it. They never would have went for it. They would have been, I'm not ready. You got a headline before you moved.
Yeah, whatever.
That's good that you did it.
It's all a ride. Isn't that
It's
what
all
Bill
a
Hicks
ride.
said?
The reason I bring up Pauly is I saw him last night, and it's something about, and we know Pauly, and it's cool, but every now and then I'll look at him and I'm like, that guy's an icon. I remember starting out in comedy, and he would be on the MTV's half-hour comedy hour, and he was the host, and I'd be I'd be on the road somewhere starting out, and I'd be getting ready for my shows, looking at the TV going, wow, I wish I could be on that show. And just his movies and buddy, it's
Yeah.
it's a trip, right? When we meet these people that
People don't realize, people that hang out at the store, you forget the guy was a movie star. A legit movie star when that meant something.
It's cool. He actually, when he saw me, he came over and was like, hey, what's up? It was cool.
He's a sweet guy.
Yeah.
He's like family to me. I've known him for 20 years, It's a long time.
It's awesome. Anyways, okay, that was the... We'll end it again.
Dude, you can tell we're getting tired.
I know.
Because everything's slowing down. I'm like...
I know.
And then?
And then I saw Pauly, and then... all right, this has gone on way too long. You guys are great. Thanks for hanging in there at the very end. Pocket Party Podcast. I love you guys. Steve Simeone, The Good Times Podcast. Follow him on all social media. Get his album. Stream his album. Stream my albums. Whatever you got to do. Check us out. You guys are awesome. Thanks for hanging.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
You're welcome. Dude, I don't know if I want to shadow box now or go eat some pizza.
I just want to go night-night.
Dude, I want to go to the boxing gym with you, though.
You got to. It's
I want to learn. I used to work at one, and the only thing I would work on was my footwork and trying to work that jab. That's it. I'm like, if I just learn how to keep my balance, stay away from people.
They say I saw this trainer the other day. He told his fighter, imagine that your nuts are the anchor. He goes, so your nuts, that's where the anchor is. So you don't want to go too far or too back or sideways. You want to keep that centered.
Oh, that's cool. So much of it really is balance, right?
It really is. Wow, we went a little deep on that one. Thanks for hanging in there for the whole time. And like I said, thank you for being a part of this Pocket Party podcast. If you want to help a brother out and keep this listener-supported program alive, click the description, throw a few bucks. It's the price of a cup of coffee, maybe 2 cups of coffee a month. That's it. You'll keep Austin happy. I can put him back in piano lessons. And we'll keep rocking it. You guys are amazing. Thank you very much. Love you. Thank you for every review, every 5-star, every donation. Much appreciated. and I will tell me what you want me to say, and I'll give you a shout out. All right. Until next week. See ya. Bye.